What's up, pod pals? It's your buddy Adam from Podcasting Business School. This is the show where I help podcasters learn how to love their show like a hobby and build it like a business. A little podcast audit session today with my new pod pal, Tyson Mutrix from the Maximum Lawyer podcast. That's a intense sounding name, Maximum Lawyer. Let's lawyer up. Tyson, welcome to the show, man. How's it going?
I'm doing well. I feel like when you do that intro, like there should be like some applause. The way you did it, it was so intense. Like, "Sha," like that. It was no, I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm feeling really good about this one. I know that you got a good thing going with your show. I've got a few ideas, some minor tweaks that may just take this thing into a whole new stratosphere. So let's maybe paint that picture a little bit. Like, let's say you and I are hanging out, and 6 months from now, and everything is really going according to plan with your show, your growth, your audience engagement, the monetization. Paint that picture for me, man. What would that look like for you?
I love that question. I usually hear that question like, okay, like 3 years from now, if everything's going well. Like I like the idea of 6 months.
6 months, man.
Yeah, I usually think in like 3 month increments is how I think with quarterly meetings and stuff. But I think it's 6 months. What we've done is we've shifted quite a bit. We have a yearly conference. We have a guild, so that's our our paid program, if you will. So we have a Facebook group as kind of feeder for the guild. And then we also have the conference, which we just announced last week that we are doing away with which it was a big deal, and a lot of people were a little disappointed, but the focus is more on the guild. So in 6 months, I think what we're doing inside the guild will be ramped up like times 100, because all those resources that we're taking away that we're using for the conference. I mean, we would start planning for the conference like next week. I mean, which wouldn't be for like it's like next year. We just had the conference at the beginning of June, so we're starting to devote all those resources over to the guild, which is going to be pretty awesome. So we're I hate this term, but we're kind of leveling up the guild. We do have a course that we built out. We're going to improve that course. We're going to be doing more things inside the guild, improving the guild, giving more resources to our members. We're shifting over to we've got four. We're doing four masterminds anyways per year, but we're adding a second day on to each one of those. That's why we're getting rid of the conference. So we're having more in-person events. It's just we're shifting it from the conference over to those things. So in 6 months, that plan will not take effect until January. So in 6 months, that'll be our first event at the end of January in Scottsdale. So by then, I plan on having just a killer event. Hopefully, the podcast is still doing well, and we're still having good listens. I mean, I would love to obviously increase our numbers, and that way it's more of a feeder for the big Facebook group, and then for the guild as well. So, but what I'm really looking for is having that first January event just be really just killer.
Nice. So I'm a big fan of the mantra, simplify before you multiply. So I've been doing a lot of that in my business as well, where I'm like, all right, what is kind of a second tier offer that isn't really working the way that I thought it would, or it takes way too much effort and energy, something like that. Do I get rid of that? Do I put it into something else to make this other thing that is working even better? So I love the way that you're thinking there. I think that's really important as an entrepreneur to do a little bit of an assessment like that. So with where you're at and where you're wanting to go, I really feel like if we can ramp up engagement from your podcast listeners, and really not just engagement, but what I call activation. So we're bringing them into your world. They're like, I got to get in this Facebook group. I got to get in the guild. That urgency, that like just desire to get in and go next level with you and your crew. That is what I feel like over the next 6 months, you can build that community to client bridge. And that's something that I love doing. I love helping people do. I do that myself with this show. So I think a really solid focus point that we could talk about today is not only just engagement, but that audience activation to get them to that next step of really desiring to go deeper into your world. Does that make sense so far?
It does, because we are missing that bridge. We had that. We would do things when it comes to like live events. We've done a zapathon where like we had people come in to work on automations, and it was also out in Scottsdale. where like yeah, like it's we capped it at certain things, and like yeah, okay, you gotta do it by this date. Like we had that bridge kind of. We don't have that with the guild. Like that is missing. We had it with the conference too. Like okay, like early bird sales. Okay, like yeah, all these different levels, and so you had that where you like deadlines and stuff. Those deadlines are pretty important. We don't have any of that with the guild. I do think having some help in that area would be really beneficial.
Okay, so let's talk about my two best ways of activating my audience, and we're doing one of them now. It's a coaching style episode, so that's one lane that we could operate in as some sort of a one-on-one coaching style episode. But for what you're doing, I'd actually recommend the other lane, which is the CELM, the Community Engagement Lead Magnet, which is what I do with my Pod Pal Zoom parties. And I recommend maybe diving a little deeper into that area first, because for me and my brain, especially, and for a lot of my clients, the people that show up in that group setting tend to convert better into membership style formats. When people do this type of session with me, a lot of them are more interested in one-on-one coaching, consulting, things like that. So I think having that opportunity where we really have to make sure that they know, not a webinar, not a webinar, not selling you anything. This is community engagement gathering. I want you to be a part of the show that you love so much, that you listen to every week, that you're subscribing to, that you're obsessed with, hopefully, and really making that super clear, where we bring a herd of maximum lawyers onto the show and we have a little roundtable style discussion. I think that would be an idea worth diving a little deeper into. Are you on board with this so far, Tyson?
I am, because we here's what's interesting is we do a lot of that stuff inside the guild, and we do know that we need to do more in the big group. We call it the big group in the guild. We got the about 5,500 member Facebook group, and then the guild. It's kind of a feeder. So I do think we call it, we need more Jim and Tyson, because my co-host is Jim Hacking, and so we say, we need more Jim and Tyson is what we need, and we
Yeah.
do know that. Here's sort of the rub. It's sort of an excuse. The Jim has got a flourishing immigration practice. I've got a flourishing personal injury practice. So we're running full-time law firms that are seven-figure law firms that are doing really well, right? And this kind of started as like a little side gig, thing like something that we started to do 6 years ago that's grown into something that's pretty spectacular. So that is there's a time constraint with it when it comes to not being able to give a lot more of ourselves to the big group, but we do know it's necessary. So I'm just gonna give that caveat, because if I had all the time in the world to do, be in the guild in the big group every day, I absolutely would. But it's sort of difficult, and I'm sure that a lot of people have that same problem. So
Oh yeah.
I'm not alone with that.
Yeah. 1000% on that. And I think that the technique that we're going to develop here today, like, this is a way to really leverage your time, because you're going to get eyeball to eyeball time with these people, and they get to be a part of your show, and they get to hear themselves on your show, aka this is like a super fan funnel. This is something that is great. Like, for example, with my brand, I'll have people show up month after month to Pod Pals, and I don't limit it. I'm not like, you've attended already, you may not attend again. I'm like, keep coming back. I make it super easy for them to come back, because it keeps those warm prospects warm. Like, they're plugged into my show, they get interaction time with me, and the more interaction time they get with me, the more likely they are to go, I just need to just hire this guy already. Like, let's just go. So,
Can I give you a plug really quick?
oh yeah,
Because
for sure.
I when I first, yeah. So whenever I went to that first Pod Pals thing, I was shocked that so quickly I was able to have access to you and get ideas, and it was great. I mean, like the number of I had a list of ideas, just it was fantastic. So if for people that are watching this, if you've not done that, do it.
Do
Really
Pod
valuable.
Pals.
You do Pod
Yes.
Pals.
Thank you.
Anyways, that is my plug, because you're fantastic during those. So I
Well,
just
I
want to give you that
appreciate
plug.
that. Now it's time to build that for your brand. So let's get into a few specific ideas. First thing, I only want you to do one of these a month. Like, don't go in. Some people are like, I'm doing them every week, bro. I'm like, let's just start with one per month. Have a little bit of a build up. The first one I want you to recruit for, like, in your Facebook group. You're gonna have to get a few ringers in the seats, get like 5 to 10 people that guarantee you they will be there 100%, because you just need to get social proof on the airwaves. You record something, we'll go over the format in a second, but I want you to record it and put it out there. And then once people start to hear it on the show, they'll be like, oh, damn, like this is cool. I want to do this. This isn't a webinar. This isn't salesy. This is just straight up teaching and connection and community connection. And that's the biggest thing when podcasters are like, man, I'm not getting any engagement from my community. My first question is, when you giving your community a chance to be a community? And it's not when you talk into the microphone and they listen. That's not engagement. Engagement is when you can talk to them, they can talk to you, and they can talk to each other. So this format allows that, and you put it out on the airwaves, and all of a sudden, wow, fear of missing out starts to happen. So one per
Let me
month. Go ahead.
let me ask you something real quick. Sorry to cut you off, but
No, go for it.
I want to. You got me thinking about something. We do this one thing once a month where we call it a back to back. And it's a. I wonder if if you think it's a good idea or a bad idea. The What we do is we go in and we tease a topic for, let's say, 20 minutes, and then we do it via StreamYard. So what we do is we cut the feed to the big group about 20 minutes in, and we say, hey, we're gonna dig deeper on this, and we're gonna go, and we usually have an expert of some sort, right? So whether if it's SEO, maybe we'd have an SEO person come on. And so we do like 20 minutes, like big picture, 30,000 foot view. Then we cut the feed, stay in the guild, and go deep on it. We do that as kind of a teaser, like, hey, you're getting this exclusivity inside the guild. And we've done it 3 months now, and I do like it, but it doesn't seem to be what you're talking about. Yours is more of like, hey, get involved with me, sort of a thing.
Yeah.
So I wonder if we should add on what you're talking about onto what we're doing. And I guess I just want to get your thoughts generally on that back to back concept, to like, because you know more with these principles of like how what things might work and what might not work. So just gonna get your thoughts on it.
Well, let's look at this like a funnel. So maybe step 1 of the funnel, they listen to your show. Step 2 is they listen to an episode that is your version of PodPal Zoom party. Step 3 is they attend one of these get-togethers. And then from there, some will convert right over and go, I want to join the guild. If they don't, I would invite them to this back-to-back as a nice next steps. I feel like you interact in that community engagement lead magnet, and then it doesn't happen there, but then you invite them to one of these. I feel like you'll have a much higher conversion ratio if you go those two things side by side. Does that make sense?
It does. Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yep.
So let's talk about format. That's kind of the home run winner here. I want a 4-week ramp up where you're mentioning that this is going to be happening on social, email marketing a little bit, on the airwaves, maybe like sponsor the episode. Hey, whatever we name it. And I always like having some sort of monetary, lawyers are into like making some damn money. That you went to all this schooling, so let's make some damn money. Like you mentioned the 7-figure lawyer, like maybe this is like a 7-figure club meeting, or like something like a 6-figure lawyer, gathering, whatever you want to call it. 6-figure lawyer gathering. That is not what you should call it. That's
I do like where you're heading with this, though. I like
but something like that.
Yeah.
And it's not like you have to be doing 6 figures to get in, but if that's a goal, maybe that's what you always like. You're going to talk about like going, bringing things to a new level business wise. And that's kind of a pinpoint topic that you can always touch on is, all right, if you're going to be a 6-figure lawyer, this is the topic of the session, blah, blah, blah. And then you're going to bring questions about that. So I like that. The name is important. It can't be a boring, stupid name. You can't call it a meeting. You can't I already like the fact that you call your membership the guild. I think that's awesome. Really good branding. Well done.
Jim gets credit for that. Jim came up with that name.
Well done, Jim.
Yeah, he did a really good job. Yeah,
I'm sure that you inspired Jim. So that's that you.
Of course. Of course.
So, something creative, something fun, something or tossing a dollar sign out there that works really well. I have a client that does a 6-figure audit where she helps you find the missing 6 figures in your business that you aren't getting yet. So, and that works really well. So, something with that I think would work well. That's what we name it. But the specific format, there are 3 sections. Okay. The first section, I want you guys to teach for like 10 to 15 minutes expert positioning. You guys are teaching, you're dropping knowledge, just you and Jim. Then, and it's on a specific topic. This isn't open Q&A. We're not doing that. People pay you for that. All right. Yeah, if they get to decide the direction of the conversation, that's when they are paying you. If it is free, you decide the direction of the conversation. And that's what this is. It'll be like, what one pinpoint topic of being a 7-figure lawyer or whatever you decide to make the focus of. And you're going to teach on that for 10 to 15 minutes. Then you'll have Q&A based off of that specific thing. All right. So that's like the specific topic of the day. You can ask questions, but only in line with that. It's not open Q&A.
So that's
Then
the Q&A is still in segment 1.
it's that segment 2 is like,
Okay.
now we have open discussion with questions that you have based off of the topic that we've set out there for you. Then, and this is the order that I tend to do them in, but you can mix these around if you see fit. The last segment is we have to come up with what I call an everybody talks segment, or everybody has an opportunity to talk. And that's not necessarily the same as the Q&A, because like with Pod Pals, we do podcaster speed dating. And that is when everybody gets to go around 60 seconds, shout out their show, who they're looking for as a guest, who they're a great speaker for. So that is the carrot that I dangle out there that makes podcasters want to always show up. So what is the irresistible reason why everybody wants to attend? Yeah, hanging out with Tyson is cool, but that may not be enough to get him there every single time. Like, what is that thing? And for me, podcasters love to promote their show on other podcasts. So that's a direct opportunity for that. But they also have a really strong opportunity to get booked on other shows. When people show up to Pod Pals, there's a lot of networking that happens. They're finding guests, they're being a guest, and it's all free. So what is that for Maximum Lawyer? One thing that works for a lot of brands is collaboration opportunities. So maybe somebody has a book, they have a course, they have a coaching program, they are looking for affiliates for that. So a collaboration jam session where everybody gets 60 seconds. What type of people are you looking to collaborate on? Or they can put an ask out there, kind of like a pay it forward thing. I've had clients do that where, every single person that's in attendance gets to put an ask out there, but they also set a goal of like, I want to be able to help deliver on at least one other person's ask and deliver value and kind of pay it forward to them. So maybe they're looking for a connection, or they want to, maybe they're like, I just released a book and I'd love to be on more podcasts. Do you know any podcasters in line with this topic? If you do, here's how you get a hold of me. So something where everybody gets a little bit of value and they get to speak. That's really important, because that's how we really unwebinar this thing. Like, we have to rewire everybody's brain. Like, this is not a webinar. There's no sales pitch. There's no like rug pull at the end or anything like that. It's just value, connection. Let's be a community, and it's all free. And we just kind of sit back and be patient with that. So those are the 3 segments. Really important. We got to come up with a good name, and we got to figure out that irresistible reason why they want to attend. So what kind of ideas are cooking now, Tyson?
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking about this too. I do have a question. What's like top of my mind was, does the order matter? So do you have it in this order for a reason?
This has worked for me, but you could switch things up. Like, I think I like the you teaching into Q&A about that, but you could do the everybody says something at the beginning before that. That's the segment that you can move around if it makes sense. Or, I mean, I just think having those 3 segments, that's what's really working from what I'm doing and how I'm having other people do this. But I think you could try mixing around a little bit for sure. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I was wondering, like, maybe starting with number 3, just because you might get that engagement right
Getting
away.
everybody talking. I like that. I do
Exactly.
like that.
That's what I
And
was
then you know
thinking.
how much time you have left to talk. Also, that's the other thing, is the math of this. Because the next question that smart people like you are asking is, well, how many people? I can't just open this up to all comers. So for me, 20 to 25 podcasters is the sweet spot, because if I give them each a minute to 90 seconds, then that's going to eat up, 25 to 30 minutes of the 45 minutes. And I know how much time I have to talk and do Q&A. So that is something that we got to kind of run math on. It's like, all right, if we're going to have 20 lawyers, 15, 10, how much time do you want to give them? Run that math. And then you go, all right, do you want this to be a 45-minute session, a 60-minute? Probably, I don't have many people going over 60. So that would be an upper limit that I would set and kind of run the numbers backwards. But then again, we have to unwebinar your brain. Also, we're like normally like, let's get as many people on here as possible. And it's like, all right, whatever, how many people you have on there. Let's say you have 20 maximum lawyer listeners on there. Just do like a 10x, like one super fan is worth 10 average Joe tire kickers that just listen to your show. So, if you were going to do a webinar and hope for 300 people, then let's get 30 people on this thing or whatever that number is that makes sense for like a brand goal. But these people are the ones that will listen to every episode. They're raising their hand and going, Coach, put me in on the field. I'm ready to get off the sidelines. I'm ready to get activated. And then what we do with these people is we strategically follow up, like I talked about earlier, and be like, what's the next logical step? Do we offer them a sweet deal on the guild? Is there a little trial? If they don't convert into that, are we offering them to do one of those back-to-back sessions with a special guest? The timing of that. But I'm telling you, Tyson, it's just like a patience play for me. It's like, let's just engage with no expectation. And then we go and go, hey, next logical step would be this, let's see what makes sense for you. So I think this
So
is
let's
going to
talk
work.
this through a little bit. So, like if you're in maximum lawyer, right, what you're looking for is to make more money, right? You're looking to get more business. You're looking to run a better law firm is what you're looking for. Right? I mean, it's really it's that simple. There's one little catch I'm a little worried about. So I was kind of thinking like one of the offers you could do, like you could have people kind of go around like the speed dating a little bit and like say about what they do, what state they're in, their practice areas, all that kind of stuff. But the only problem with that is that we try to discourage the referral sharing inside the big group. We started actually a separate group called Maximum Lawyer Referrals for referrals, because what was happening was is people were coming in the group like, hey, I need an immigration lawyer in Oregon. Who do you got? Like one of those kind of things. And it was just cluttering up the feed and they'd get lost and everything. So what we wanted to do was really take those, move them into a separate group, which is what we've done. So part of my first thought was like, hey, like do the whole thing, say what your practice areas and all that. But I wonder if that goes back to encouraging people to share referrals inside the group, which we may not want to do. So I guess what are your thoughts on that specifically?
I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be that ask. That's just one option. It doesn't always fit for everybody, but it could even just be like a showcase thing where people will be excited to get on there and share, if they can share their website and brand, and then drop a 30-second tip. What's working right now? Tell us what's working right now for your business, or a win of the month or something like that. That's just like a little bit of expert positioning for them, where they may go, hey, when the episode goes like, make sure you share this out. I drop a pretty hot tip at the end. You get to, and you could imagine, instead of having one guest, you've got 20 or 30 people sharing this out because they got to drop a tip on your episode. That's going to multiply the downloads too. So something like that we want to keep this simple. We don't want to keep it, we don't want to overthink it. We want to keep this as simple as possible. And, just the showcasing them, everybody gets to talk. It's a real community engagement driver, making it fun. If at the end you're all fired up about it, you nailed it. Or as you like, if you're kind of like eagerly anticipating it going into it, then you nailed the format. If you're like dreading it, we need to fix something. That's
Sure.
that's the general rule of thumb. Like when I do Pod Pals in the evening, I have a hard time falling asleep at night. I was like, that was awesome. I got to teach. The community was interacting. They asked great questions. They all got to, shout out themselves on my platform. So that's the vibe that we're going for. Make sense?
Yeah, it does, and it fits in with other things we do. So during the podcast, we do Hacking's Hack and Tyson's Tip. So we each give one every podcast, and so we ask our guests to give one. So it fits in with that. At the end of the conference, we had microphones set up where people could stand up at the mics and give things that they learned at the conference. So I think actually going around, and people like to kind of brag on things that they're doing well. I think that that's important. So that's something we could do. I don't know what we would call it at the end. We could figure out the naming of all the stuff. But I do think going around and allowing people to say, hey, this is what's working for our firm right now. Maybe it'll work for you. And that's the kind of community we have too, is like that, it's that collaborative sharing community. So I do think I think that'd be pretty good. And it was actually, it's funny, you and I were thinking the same, because that was, first was like, okay, maybe I'll pitch my practice, but no, number two is like, okay, maybe like what's working, like kind of a thing. So I like that.
Yeah. people love to brag on themselves. They like to talk about, what's going well and share a little bit. So I think you provide an open platform for that, and it gets blasted out across the podcast airwaves. Then that's a good thing for them. So now, as far as like where you're positioned at, I think this is really going to help because when I analyze your show, and I know some things that we've talked before, I know you got some good things cooking with your business. When I look at my podcasting success timeline, you're actually in phase 3. 80% of podcasters in phase 2, which is the post-launch frustration zone. You've escaped that. You're in what I call the business traction zone. So that's huge. Congrats on that. And then moving to phase 4, which is where we see sustained growth and income, where it's like, this is automatic. And there's this nice, steady feed of, download growth, but also you start seeing all these podcast listeners showing up, paying you money as paying clients. They're in the guild going, I first found out about you about the podcast. So having those super fans migrate over, that's where we go to phase 4. And I think this is the thing that's really going to help build that community client bridge. So now I'm gonna hold your feet to the fire, Tyson. I'm gonna
Sure.
follow up with you because I've got your cell phone number, you got my cell
That's
phone
right.
number. So in the next 24 hours, I'm big on like dominoes. All right. I don't need you to build out the entire thing that we just discussed, but what's the first domino that you can knock over in the next 24 hours that'll just get the momentum rolling in the right direction? What do you want to commit to me to doing here today, man?
Well, I do have a partner, and we've got 2 employees on top of that. So, I've got to one run the idea by them, which I don't think that they'll have a problem with. I do think coming up a name for, I think naming. If I just had to do one thing, naming what this thing is number one on the list, and number two would probably be naming what the offer is. We may not call it an offer, but I'll say naming segment 3 as well.
Yep.
What I'll say. So
Yep. I love
naming
that.
the show and then naming segment 3 are the two things. And to be honest with you, I hate to say this on something that's recorded, but Jim is sort of brilliant when it comes to naming things. So I'll run it by him. He's really remarkable at his ability to name things. So I think
Nice.
he'll have a really good idea. I also want to share this episode with him so that he and Becca and Christine can listen to this and we can kind of riff off of it. So I think naming it, and then so naming the show and then the segment. So
Outstanding. Those are 2 super important first steps. And I think the momentum will just roll out from there. So you've got your action step. I can't wait to see what you do with it. And you're in my world. You're in my download growth club. So we'll be able to, kind of hammer out some more ideas in line with this. So let's make sure you get an opportunity to shout out your brand, your website, your show. So go ahead and take the hot mic, man, and shout yourself out.
nice. Yeah. So if you're interested, and that's funny, like I feel like I'm at the end of my show where like I've given like I give a little plug at the end. But yeah, I mean, if you're interested in improving your firm, I will say this: if you're just interested in improving your business, it's for lawyers. That's our niche. That's our target or our avatar. But we talk about business stuff. That's what we talk about. So marketing, firm management, all that. MaximumLawyer.com is our website. You can check us out on Facebook. Join the Facebook group. A lot of people there. We have non-lawyers in there as well. And listen to our podcast, the Maximum Lawyer Podcast. Hopefully, you'll get a lot out of it. I think it's a really good show. We've been doing it for 6 years. There's a lot of great content. So check us out.
Outstanding. Tyson, I'm excited to see where you go with this, man. Everybody that's listening in, if you want to be like my pod pal Tyson here, you want to come on, do a podcast audit, I want you to go to the website, podcastingbusiness.school, get signed up and get on that
Do it.
list.
Do it.
Do it. Tyson says he will sue you
Do
if
it.
you don't.
Do it. That's right.
All right. All right, everybody. We appreciate you tuning in for another episode of Podcasting Business School. I'll send you out into the world wishing you health, happiness, and many downloads. See you next time.